creating an action in Photoshop. What are actions? In Photoshop, an action is a way that we can record something. Most tasks are performed with a button or a menu command, and we can record that as an action in Photoshop. Now, an action can have 1 to on up steps, 1 or more steps. And we can have a stop in our action, which lets the user complete a command that cannot be recorded. Actions are stored in sets. They are .atn files, and typically the set name is some sort of a category that's descriptive of the actions that they contain. Let's go ahead and open the Actions panel. Now, the Actions panel is grouped with the History panel, so if you have the History panel open, which actually it's right up here, you can go ahead and click that. It looks like a little play button. If you don't, you can go under Window and right up here at the top, Actions. Okay? Because it doesn't have a check mark there, it just means that it's not open. If you look at what panels I have open right now, I have Styles up at the top there, then it's Adjustments, and then it's Layers. And those are the ones that have the check mark. I have Application Frame, Options, and Tools because my tools, my options, and my application frame are there. So the check mark includes what you see visible, as well as my documents. If I had multiple documents, you would see them there, but you might only have one on top. So if I click Actions, that means that it just will open it up. So like I mentioned, Actions is always grouped with History. So when we look at the Actions panel, we can toggle between 2 different modes. Now, the first mode by default is what I see here. What I'm seeing is actually a set. If I expand the set by clicking the arrow, you can see in list mode each of the actions, and if I open up one of them, for instance, let's open up the vignette, you can see all of the specific details within this action. For instance, initially it makes a snapshot, then it does a feather, then it makes a layer via copy, it shows the current layer, it makes a new layer, it does a fill, and it moves the current layer. And that's what the action is doing. And in each one of these, I can open up even more to see specific details, such as the feather. I can see a radius of 5 pixels was used. Okay, and in the fill, I can see an opacity of 100% using white and normal mode. So this is the list mode. This is nice because you can see all the individual steps and details within an action. It's easy to go back and edit when you see it in list mode. Sometimes, however, it's nice to view it in button mode. In button mode, you have to go to the little options menu here for the Actions panel and look at button mode. Button mode will display each action as a button, but I do not see the details. And so if I wanted to run one of these, say, I would just click on the button and it would go. So that's how we see the actions in the Actions panel. Now, how do we operate an action? If I go back to, well, in this mode, I guess I can just show you. If I, let's click on this, fast. Look at how quickly that action happened. And really what this action did is it created an adjustment layer, hue and saturation, and it made it be a sepia tone. How quickly that was done. Super, super easy. Okay, if I go to my history for a moment, you can see that this was used as a step here. Now if I click, okay, you can go on back and you can see what it did in each one of these items. Okay, so now I'm back to where. So these steps were part of that action. Let's go back to list mode. So I'll uncheck button mode, and you can see what I did was the sepia. And if I take a look, it made a snapshot, made a layer, merged the visible, desaturated, and it made that adjustment layer. Okay, so that's how actions work. They save you a lot of time. So when I want to play an action, I have buttons here at the bottom. Now in button mode, I click the button, it rolls. When I'm in list mode, I have some buttons here at the bottom. Now the first one here is to make a new action. It's that new icon that we see whether we're in layers or in paths, whatever it might be, we see new. Then we see a layer set type icon, and this creates a new action set. Now remember, I said that's how actions are stored. It's typically some sort of folder with a category name. I have a play select. I have a begin recording. We're going to record an action in a moment. And then of course the stop. So the typical controls here: stop, record, and play. Now if I wanted to just take a look at what other options I have within Photoshop, up in the menu here, I do have some action sets here that come with Photoshop. For instance, if I wanted to look at my text effects, I can click this and it will append it, meaning it adds it to my actions. So default actions is what I started with. Remember, that was the list. And now I have all these text effects that I can apply. So we do have a lot of action sets that come with Photoshop. I can go online, a lot of free actions out there. If you go to your Creative Cloud, you have a lot of action sets out there that either you can purchase or that are available for free, or I can make my own. So let's go ahead and make our own. We're going to record an action. So I use the new action button here on the panel. Looks like the new layer. And I have some information to edit, to add in. So in this case, I'm going to call this action drop. Let's do a text drop shadow. So a simple effect of just applying a drop shadow. We're going to go really simple here. Your actions can be really complex and really long if you want them to. I just want to show you how to do it, so I'm going to keep mine simple. And as far as the set where I want to save it, I could put it in my default actions, or I could do it in the text effects. We'll go ahead and add it to my text effects set. And then all I need to do, if I want to assign a function key with it, I certainly can do that. If I want to color it, I certainly can do that. And that's just a color coding, has nothing to do with what I'm recording as my action. And I go ahead and click record. Now the thing to remember here when you're doing an action is that Photoshop does not remember the time it took you to do the recording. So you can be as fast or as slow as you want, and that does not affect the final action that you create. So I'm going to go ahead and click record. I'm recording right now. The little red circle here is highlighted. So it's going to record the actions that I do. Doesn't record that I'm hiding that. That's not being recorded. So again, I can be as fast or as slow as I want. And what I'm going to do is take this layer. So look at how it's telling me what I'm recording. Show current layer is being recording. So I'm seeing those individual actions in the set here appearing in my actions panel. So on this current layer, which I made a new layer, I'm going to actually, I'll turn these off for a moment so you can see. Hide layer Hank. Now, this doesn't always apply. I could probably delete that piece in my action later on when I choose to go in and do some editing. Now, if I go down to FX here, and let's scroll down, I want drop shadow. And I know it's probably falling off. You're not seeing it, but I want drop shadow. So up to this point, nothing's been recorded because I've not really done anything yet. And what I want to do is apply a drop shadow. So I could use this, I could play with this. I could actually go out here and click and drag to get a little bit more deeper of a shadow. Okay, so there's my drop shadow. These settings will be remembered. I click OK. There it is. Okay, and that's going to have the specific dimensions, the specific settings that I chose for my drop shadow. And if that's all I want to do is to record this simple drop shadow effect, that's it. So then I can just click stop. And it stopped. And now I have this text drop shadow. Now, one of the things that I should have done before I started this, I should have made a snapshot. Let's maybe go back and do this one more time. So I'm going to turn this, get rid of that. That's what I just did. We'll turn these others off. So we're just looking at this one text. Okay. And if I wanted to, I can delete this and start all over. Would have probably been better off to go back and edit, but I'm just going to show you the proper way to start an action. So again, new action here. We'll call it the same, type drop shadow. I'll keep it under text effects. Let's go ahead and put a yellow color on it so we can see it. And click record. All right, I'm now recording. What you should always try to do when you start an action is to create a snapshot. This is an easy way to go back to where your starting point is. So under history, I create a snapshot, and that's just a matter of clicking the little camera icon. This way I have a snapshot that I can go back to before my action ran, and this is perfect for when you're testing your actions also. Create a snapshot first when you're testing it, then go ahead and work on an action. So I'm going to make my actions visible again so I can see what's being recorded. Only make snapshot has been recorded. Now let's go ahead down to effects, and again I'm going to choose drop shadow. There's my drop shadow. Again, I can play with these settings however I want it to be. I'll just go ahead and keep what's there just for the sake of time here. Click OK. There's my layer style that I just recorded with those specific drop shadow settings. And if that's all I wanted to do, then I go ahead and stop it. Okay, so at this point now I can go back and I can actually re-record and add pieces. I can modify my action. But what I can do now is test this. And by testing this, I can go back to history, to my snapshot, which I created before I actually ran this action. And now I can go to actions and actually play the action back, do a playback. Now when I click on this, all I have to do is click play, and boom, there it went. It looks like it worked. All right, so now I also have some playback options in a way that Photoshop is running this action in front of me, and that's the playback option dialog box. Under the actions panel here, we have the playback options almost towards the middle here. If I click on that, my playback options dialog box will open, and I have three options: accelerated, step by step, and pause 4. Now the accelerated plays all the steps within the action and then makes all the changes. So it goes through all the steps, and then boom, at the end I see the change. That's what happened at this point. The step by step redraws each step. So I can make a snapshot, it'll redraw it. It does this step, it'll redraw it. So it takes a little bit longer because it redraws each step. And then I have a pause 4, so that's the step by step. And the pause 4 allows me to set specific seconds between each step. So I could run a step, pause for 1 second, which happens to be a really, really long time when you're just standing there looking at it. So you can choose to play back any of your actions in a different way. All right, so I'll leave it at accelerated because I like just to have it happen right away, really fast. Click OK, and I'm set. So now I have created this drop shadow. Now if I go to button mode, notice how it's red. That was that color code that I chose when I created it. So I don't see that in list mode. I only see that in my button mode. Okay, so try to make some actions. Look at the actions that are out there. There are some really great items that can save you a lot of time.